Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to NEWSROOM. I'm your host, Khalid. Today is the 19th of July 2022. These are the stories that will be under discussion during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the senior officials of Pakistan and China that have yesterday discussed the possibility of extending the Pakistan-China Economic Corridor, otherwise known as the CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, to Afghanistan in order to promote economic development and prosperity in the region and, of course, in Afghanistan. This is not the first time that we've heard of it. Last year also, in the month of May, it had been said by the Chinese spokesperson that there was an extension being decided as far as the CPEC is concerned into Afghanistan. How much is that is going to help Afghanistan, the region, economically and otherwise? This is going to be our leading story. Our second story of the day concerns the heat wave. Now, we've seen the heat wave in Pakistan, we've seen the effects of climate change in Pakistan, but now Europe as a continent also is undergoing massive changes as far as this heat wave is concerned. There are forest fires, there are the number of casualties that are in the hundreds. Any country of Europe is not spared as far as heat waves are concerned, and forest fires that are engulfing the greenery and the forestry of the region also are a huge amount of concern. To add to that, there are also cases of drought that are coming up in Europe, and this is what we are going to discuss in our second story today. Then we'll be discussing the ratings agency Fitch that has revised Pakistan's outlook from stable to negative. It has cited several reasons for the downgrade, including adjustment risks, financing, political risks, and declining reserves. This and the change in the dollar to rupee parity will be our third story of the day. Let's begin with our first segment, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and the extension of this important corridor that is part of the BRI into Afghanistan. What kind of implications does it have positive for the region and for Afghanistan? More in the following report.
China and Pakistan are exploring the extension of their bilateral infrastructure development project, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, to Afghanistan. The stage is now set for expansion and a geographical extension of CPEC to western Pakistan and to landlocked Afghanistan. During a meeting between China's Special Envoy on Afghanistan, Yu Xiaoyong, and the Foreign Secretary Sohail Mahmood at the Foreign Office in Islamabad, the possibility of extending CPEC to Afghanistan was discussed. An official statement said the two sides exchanged views on the political and security situation in Afghanistan, humanitarian assistance by Pakistan and China to Afghanistan, and other matters of mutual interest. The Foreign Secretary underscored Pakistan's commitment to a peaceful, stable, prosperous, and connected Afghanistan. Afghanistan has already started benefiting from the Gwadar port, and the country received the first consignment of bulk cargo from the United Arab Emirates in July 2020. Both sides have been advocating to expedite humanitarian aid to Afghanistan and its people to avert from the looming crisis, and pressing the international community to provide continued and enhanced assistance to support to Afghanistan, including through unfreezing financial assets. A peaceful, stable, united, safe and secure Afghanistan is fundamental for prosperity and progress in the region. So extension of CPEC to Afghanistan will promote economic development and prosperity in the war-ravaged country.
All right, now to discuss this very important issue of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and its extension into Afghanistan, we've been joined by Dr. Fazal Rehman, who is the director of the Pakistan Institute of China Studies at the University of Sargodha. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saab, since last year we had been hearing that this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is going to be extended into Afghanistan. Now we are seeing more and more proof of that. How important is this extension?
Well, actually, this extension is very important, and it has been a long dream of Pakistan and China also to expand the connectivity westward from CPEC. So this is in that context that Pakistan now is trying to push this idea for the last about more than 1 year to get Afghanistan into the rope and get Afghanistan connected under the framework of CPEC. However, there are certain things which needs to be clarified before we really, visualize the kind of involvement of Afghanistan into CPEC. So we have to really work very hard on those framework aspects of extending CPEC to Afghanistan.
Now, Dr. Saab, we all know about the importance of the China-Pakistan economic corridor for Pakistan, and we've seen the developments that have taken place. The second phase is on as we speak. This meeting that was held between the Foreign Secretary of Pakistan with the Chinese high official as far as Afghanistan is concerned, does that also show a positive step towards the imagining or the eventual extension of this corridor, or do you feel there are certain bottlenecks in the middle that need to be catered to or taken care of?
Well, actually, certainly the bottlenecks are there. The political stability in Afghanistan, the security issue in Afghanistan are two major concerns. Besides that, there is concern of international community regarding the human rights, regarding the women's rights, regarding the girls' rights and things like that. So I think all these issues needs to be resolved before a meaningful cooperation can take place between CPEC and Afghanistan. However, the steps are being taken in the right direction. And I think that gradually now the things are warming up towards embracing Afghanistan into the fold of CPEC. So I think that in near future, perhaps this is also needed by the Afghans themselves as well, that they should be incorporated into a larger framework, economic framework, where they can have the opportunities of development and prosperity. So from their point of view also, I think there is a desire, and from our point of view, there is a desire. So I think the two sides can work towards finding out the mechanism under which this cooperation will take place.
All right. Now, China has always been willing to extend the China-Pakistan economic corridor into Afghanistan. But of course, you yourself mentioned that there is an Afghan government that has certain issues, not only within its own country, but also with other countries, especially in the West. Do you feel that the Afghan government, the current Afghan government of the Taliban, will be willing to make the necessary changes so that the China-Pakistan economic corridor, as well as the other aid from other countries in the West, could further proceed?
Well, while the concept of Belt and Road Initiative and CPEC is all inclusive, and we do not have any provisions in the framework of CPEC to either interfere into the internal affairs of any country or make some judgments on the internal affairs of any country. However, there are some larger concerns. But as far as the cooperation in the framework of CPEC is concerned, I think that can take place, no matter whosoever is in power in Kabul, provided that they agree to the larger principles of economic cooperation which are envisaged under CPEC.
But Dr. Zab, there needs to be a certain assurance also that needs to be given by the Afghan side so that the CPEC could move forward. Do you feel the Afghan government is in a position to give those assurances?
Well, actually, if you look at the track record of kind of assurances which have been given to the international community and to other countries, there has been some kind of, problems with that. I hope that on this count, at least they fulfill their commitments. It also depends on the capacity of Afghan government, because for running a project like CPEC or extending it to Afghanistan, there is a need of technocrats, there is a need of specialists, experts in different fields, and because of this exodus which has taken place recently from Afghanistan, I think that there is a very large segment of knowledge-based human resource which has left Afghanistan. So Afghanistan is going to encounter several problems in terms of not only their commitments in financial terms and in other administrative terms, but in terms of expertise also, because Pakistan and China also took some time in order to adjust their two systems, in order to learn from each other's bureaucratic practices and all that. So those kind of problems will be faced by the Afghan government and also by the CPEC partners.
Now, Dr. Saab, you know, one of the things that has happened because of the steps that the current Taliban government has taken as far as human rights or maybe women's rights or girls' rights is concerned is that there is the aid that has to come from the West is not coming as it should, the cooperation that needs to come. And one of the factors that has started from the very beginning of the Taliban taking power is the freezing of the assets of Afghanistan and of course the banking operations. Do you feel that these assets could be unfrozen? Do you feel that the banking operations could be facilitated, and if so, what measures need to be taken by Afghanistan, and do you feel China and Pakistan can help in this regard?
Actually, Pakistan and China can make appeals to the international community to unfreeze the assets of Afghanistan. But at the same time, I think the international community's demands are very rigid. And if the Taliban comply totally with those demands, it will be very difficult for them to hold on to the kind of ideological base that they have. So I think there's a very sort of deep-rooted dilemma for them what to do in such a situation. While CPEC, extension of CPEC will provide them with some kind of opportunity where they can generate some economic activity and can get some assistance in terms of building infrastructure, developing some kind of industrial base, and some other projects which can be beneficial for the country.
All right, as far as China is concerned, Dr. Saab, and the position that China has taken vis-a-vis certain global issues that are currently being seen by the world over, including the West, do you feel that China's position becomes stronger, or does it remain the same as far as the regional dynamics, global dynamics, and geostrategic location and positioning is concerned?
Well, there are actually, several levels of international politics. At one level, China has to be very assertive and very firm as far as the great power politics is concerned. But as far as the regional politics is concerned, China's engagement with different regions, and especially in the sphere of economic cooperation, in the sphere of technical assistance and things like that, there China will remain engaged in a more softer way, as China has to use its soft power in order to expand its influence globally. So I think that there is going to be a mix depending on the issues, what kind of position China would maintain.
All right. Now, speaking of the position that China is maintaining or needs to maintain or would be maintaining, as far as the China-Pakistan economic corridor is concerned, there have been a lot of, how should I say, factors that do not want the BRI or the CPEC to expand. When it comes to Afghanistan, we've seen how there was a certain reluctance for the CPEC to be extended into Afghanistan with the previous regime. Do you feel this regime will have a different point of view or perspective regarding that?
Well, I think definitely, because you must understand the regional dynamics, where in Afghanistan there was a Indian involvement, there was an Indian influence, and there was a Western influence also. All those factors which were opposing CPEC were present in Afghanistan, and those factors are engagements at different levels, but that core opposition is not there anymore. So I think that this time around the perspective of somewhat different from the previous regime, and this will be more receptive to this notion of co-opting in CPEC.
Now, as far as China and Pakistan are concerned, Dr. Saab, the friendship or the cooperation, collaboration is of course quite noteworthy and quite exceptional since the last few decades. What do you foresee as far as the Pakistan-China relationship in the context of the China-Pakistan economic corridor is concerned, and how do you foresee also the possible extension beyond Afghanistan of the CPEC is concerned?
Well, actually, I think there has been certain very basic principles drawn by the Chinese side, that the decision to include any additional country into CPEC would depend on the negotiations between China and Pakistan, and they should agree to certain kind of terms and conditions for the involvement of a third country. So once they agree, I think there will be kind of a workable framework between these two countries to extend cooperation or include a third country into CPEC. And I think that China would be, sort of very much eager and ready to expand CPEC in Pakistan also. But at the same time, we have to also see our limitations. We need to have a look back on the way the things have been developing in CPEC. There had been hiccups, there had been bottlenecks, but still it is going on. It is going on rather satisfactorily. So we expect that in future perhaps there will be a greater momentum in development of CPEC. But I think we should also see the number of projects that we have signed and agreed to, and the number of projects that we have been able to accomplish or complete, implement. So we need to, I think, there is a provision of periodic review of CPEC. So I think we need to do more doable projects, and we need to, assess our needs at the moment, which keeps changing with time. So we need to, sort of keep modifying the modalities and the projects of CPEC as the time passes by.
All right. How do you also, Dr. Saab, foresee the relationship between China and Afghanistan? We know that China has been helping Afghanistan as it has in the past as well. We also know that since the Taliban government took power, there are certain issues that China is taking up with Afghanistan, especially when it concerns terrorism. But despite that, China has been helping Pakistan. When it comes to CPEC, there is also the fact that China understands that Afghanistan was importing and exporting goods through Gwadar and the Karachi ports. High-speed highways were also being extended to Afghanistan. This is also what the Chinese side had said. What are the major points as far as the China-Afghanistan relationship is concerned, and how do you see it going forward?
I think the Chinese concern is that China has been having problem in one of its western provinces where there is kind of low-level insurgency going on. So China would certainly be concerned about the security aspects. So one of the level of engagement with Afghanistan is the security level, where they would like that there should not be any spillover effect from Afghanistan into the western parts of China. The other thing is certainly Afghanistan has been a subject of perpetual instability for a very long period of time, and the local dynamics have changed, and it has had spillover effects on the neighboring countries. So China wants more stability in the neighborhood of Afghanistan, so that perhaps more economic prosperity, regional economic integration can take place. So from that point of view, China's interest is economic also. China has made, I think, the largest investment at INEC in Afghanistan with a perspective that, there could be some more investment in the mining field into the areas, in which Afghanistan can benefit from Chinese technological edge and expertise. So from that point of view, I think it's primarily a security, economic, and regional stability, which China is focusing at the moment.
Finally, Dr. Fazal, do you foresee also foreign influence continuing to destabilize Afghanistan and its relationship with neighborhood countries? We've seen that in the past with India. We also know that there are certain overtures between India and Afghanistan, the current government as we speak. Do you foresee some kind of an influence in the coming months as well in Afghanistan of the same foreign influences that had destabilized Afghanistan's relationship with other countries?
I think that we should not overlook the fact that the American interest is there in Afghanistan, and it will continue to be there for a long time to come. Similarly, Indian interest is there. They are going to get involved, and whatever regime is in position in Kabul, sort of all these forces are going to deal with it, and this influence in Afghanistan is going to continue till Afghanistan becomes politically very stable, and we should be prepared while extending any kind of assistance, help, or extending CPEC to Afghanistan, that all these factors are going to be present in Afghanistan, and we should cater for tackling all these elements while we are sort of engaging with Afghanistan.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Fazal Rehman, Director, Pakistan Institute of Chinese Studies at the University of Sargodha, talking to us about the possible extension of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor into Afghanistan. What are the issues behind it? How can it move forward? There are many questions regarding it, but nevertheless, there is that determination by both Afghanistan, China and Pakistan to extend the CPEC into Afghanistan. Let's wish that this happens sooner than later. Let's come to our second segment, and that concerns the heat wave that has spiraled Europe into lots of wildfires, lots of heat increase in temperatures across different countries, including the United Kingdom, Spain, France, you name it, and the countries are embroiled in an even drought. More in the following report.
The European heatwave is engulfing parts of southwest of the continent in recent weeks. European Commission researchers said nearly half, that is 46% of the EU territory, is exposed to warning level drought. Firefighters continue to battle blazes in the southern Europe as searing temperatures move north, and Britain braced for what could be its hottest day on record. Temperatures are also forecast to rise above 35 degrees centigrade in the Netherlands, while neighbouring Belgium is expected to hit 40 degrees Celsius and over. 2 people were killed in the blazes in Spain. That its Prime Minister linked to global warming, saying that climate change kills. Around 32,000 tourists or residents have been forced to decamp in France, many to emergency shelters. Life-threatening heat waves are more intense, more frequent and longer because of climate change, and coupled with droughts have made wildfires harder to fight. At the 12th Petersburg Climate Dialogue Conference in Berlin, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres issued a dire warning that the global warming limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius agreed in the 2015 Paris Climate Accord is slipping further out of reach. In the wake of ticking climate bomb, this has to be the decade of decisive climate action based on trust, multilateralism, and collaboration to pursue collective effort to combat climate change.
Dr. Munir, Rehman, the environmentalist, joins us online to discuss this severe heat wave that has engulfed Europe. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Was it expected, these wildfires, the heat wave, the drought that is engulfing Europe? Did you foresee that?
Thank you so much. And definitely, the world was foreseeing such kind of extreme events. And that's why, like right from the first report of IPCC several years back, and they were emphasizing on different the developed world and the countries to take necessary measures. But unfortunately, such warnings and such alerts were not taken care of. Even like 4 years back, when the world signed different agreements and developed a green climate fund, even then the countries did not contribute to it to take measures. And certainly the kind of industrialization that we have been on for more than a century, it has to impact the world with such kind of extreme events. Since like 250 years, 48% of greenhouse gas emissions have been increased in the atmosphere. And despite several warnings, the industry could not take measures to reduce greenhouse gases, and this is the impact. And Pakistan and India also suffered from heat wave in early March till April and May, and it cost us several lives. And now we have heard that Europe is also facing extreme events of wildfires and the hot weather, and also energy crisis as well. And still, if Europe will not wake up, definitely it would be the extreme crisis for the world. Immediately, they need to realize the phenomena contributing to such extreme events and take measures accordingly. especially those they shall help the least developed countries and developing countries to combat such kind of extreme events. G.
Dr. Saab, you talk about the developments in Europe, and this is, of course, what our story is about. I'd like to refer you to something that the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said when he visited one of the regions of Spain that was affected by it. He said climate change kills. It kills people, it kills our ecosystems and biodiversity. The Spanish Minister for Ecological Transition also has described her country as literally under fire as she attends talks on climate change in Berlin. We've had COP26. We've had the Paris Climate Agreement. We've had so many talks. Who is to blame for it? Why are the countries in Europe, are they not taking necessary measures? Is there a reluctance? Apart from industrialization, are there other factors that are contributing to this current heat wave?
In fact, the developed countries have to contribute. Paris Agreement was there, but nobody obliged to the promises they made over there in the Paris and in Paris, but they are reluctant. They showed reluctance to contribute to Green Climate Fund, and the agenda that was prepared in the Paris Agreement, and it was not completed so far. Even a fraction of it, the funds committed were not contributed. And the most unfortunate was the next year, the U.S. Taken opt out of the Paris Agreement. That was the setback, and with U.S. Several other countries also showed sluggishness in implementation of
this Paris Agreement. But at the same time, Dr. Munir Ahmed, what I'd like to ask you also is with this crisis, this war between Ukraine and Russia, and of course the energy crisis, the gas crisis that are associated with it as well, do you also feel that with countries in the European Union who are going back to coal as a form of energy, this is going to increase the current situation as far as climate change is concerned?
Definitely, it would increase the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and that would that have already played havoc, and they would be increasing more difficulties for the people. Definitely, coal has very large amount of greenhouse gas emissions, and that would certainly increase. And more of that, they are into a war that was not necessary at the moment, and that has increased miseries already, not for Ukraine, for the neighboring countries as well. And when Russia has blocked the gas and energy supply to Europe, that has also increased the miseries of the people in Europe. And another unfortunate thing is the lifestyle of the European countries and the infrastructure they have built over there. And both are not climate friendly, and their lifestyle has increased consumption, and their production is not very climate friendly. Even the infrastructure they have, that is not very climate friendly, and rather the infrastructure consume energy a lot, and so they have to consume. While they consume energy, definitely they contribute more to the greenhouse gas emissions, and that needs to be reduced. And rather, as agreed in the Paris Agreement, gradually the world has to go to decarbonization of the world. And they have to make their industries more climate friendly, like reducing consumption of the fuel they are consuming, and reducing to zero the carbon emissions their factories are emitting. And also the other part is the change in lifestyle. And we are, after the COVID-19, we are more to disposable items more. And the production of the crops are definitely needs more water, and the food wastage in Europe is much higher. So on the one hand, least developed countries are not getting food, and the developed countries are wasting food. And their production is also not climate friendly. They are consuming a lot of energy and other resources. Then we means the developed world needs to take measures to reduce inputs into their lifestyle and into the production. G.
All right, now, Dr. Saab, that brings so many questions to mind when you say a change in lifestyle, and that countries in the West need to take necessary measures. They have been pledging. You remember all the pledges that were recently made at the COP26 as far as bringing about changes in their lifestyle, in the functioning, in their industrialization, in their industries. Are also concerns to reduce the carbon emission, because most of the carbon emissions are coming from the West as we speak, not from countries like Pakistan, but Pakistan becomes one of the most affected countries as far as climate change is concerned. You talk about lifestyle. You remember a few years back there was a huge heat wave many years back, in fact, in Europe, including in France and other countries, and a lot of people suffered, a lot of elderly people passed away because of that heat wave. It was decided then that the necessary changes would be made. But those changes, years down the lane, have yet to be implemented. The Spanish minister has said that the temperatures in Spain are going to exceed 40 degrees Celsius starting from the next couple of days. The people in Europe have never seen temperatures this high. In Pakistan, we can bear with 50 degrees centigrade as well. But in Europe, people cannot bear this temperature. Why haven't the governments in the European Union taken the necessary measures, maybe as far as the lifestyle is concerned, the vertical infrastructure is concerned, like the apartments, put on the proper ventilation system in those apartments, so that in case of a heat wave that the people can manage to survive?
Definitely, you are right. There are several things the people can do, but Europeans, the European governments definitely cannot stress on their industries and the tycoons in the industry, because most of them fund the political campaigns, the election campaigns of the leaders. And after having the sponsored campaigns by the states of the world, the industry of their countries or the global industry, how they can stress upon to take strict measures. And this is the one thing. The second thing is, as I mentioned, their infrastructure is not climate friendly. It consumes a lot of energy to cool it down to normal temperature. And secondly, in winter, they have to consume more energy to heat it up. So they need to do something about the new infrastructure as well. And secondly, the development projects are not very environment friendly and climate friendly. Still, despite pledging measures in the climate, the Paris Agreement, and afterwards, they are still not being implemented, and their importance are felt. But those few who are the industrialists, the tycoon in the industries, and they are not bothered about whatever pledges their governments made. So there should be some mechanism to influence and pressurize those industries to take care of such kind of. And the other thing, that though we stress a lot upon the plantation of trees and saving trees, conservation of waters, most of the natural resources are diminishing. And according to WWF reports, hundreds and thousands of species have been diminished, and most of and many are endangered species. So that is because of the climate change. And as we know, the glaciers are melting a lot because of the global warming. As you mentioned, Pakistan, though, is not the major polluter, but suffering from the impact of climate change. So before that, Pakistan was on 8th, and now Pakistan is ranked at 5th on the vulnerability index. So such kind of Pakistan being not the big polluter, but we don't have the resources to combat. And such is the things that larger framework of climate adaptation and mitigation measures should be taken up by the developed countries, especially US, one of the largest polluters of greenhouse gas emissions. They need to take, and they need to spend money on it. But unfortunately, despite promises, as I mentioned, the pledged promises are not fulfilled. And if sooner the action is not taken on the pledges made in the different conference of parties, right from Paris Agreement to onward, definitely they will be facing. And this time, the heat wave would be another pandemic. And the wildfires.
That is so true.
And
I mean, and you know, let's talk of vulnerabilities. Let's talk further on vulnerabilities. I'd like to divert your attention on something that Pakistan has been involved in, and thought of that Pakistan in 2025 is going to be a country that could face drought. Now, the same vulnerability of drought has extended to the European Union. Nearly half of the European territory, including the United Kingdom, is at risk of drought. This has been said by researchers at the European Union Commission. On Monday, heat waves, droughts, extreme temperatures. Isn't the Europe or the European Union going to be the hotbed as far as the climate change and the repercussions of those are concerned in the coming months if this continues in the same vein?
Definitely, like the most, they would be, if not, I believe like the weather predictions and the climate predictions are, so they would be suffering a lot from such kind of
because you know the report also says that water supply is going to be compromised in the coming months in the European Union of all places. You know, we talk about in Pakistan, but here people are saying that this is going to happen in the European Union. They are going to face a shortage of water. What happens next?
That's true. As you mentioned, that is one of the predictions that even Europe will be suffering from a severe droughts and water shortage and energy crisis. And still, those who need to be taken up, or like the people who need to wake up, they are not. They are sleeping on the fate of the entire Europe, rather the entire planet. So that is very strange. And on the other hand, glaciers, wherever they are melting very fast speed. And have you never heard about the floods coming in United States and other countries? They were. But still, they face such kind of miseries. The people are, the lives of the people are at stake, but industrialists and the governments, they are not willing to spend money that is required to mitigate such kind of, and they are not even to adopt a new infrastructure that could be the energy efficient, and they are not willing to compromise on their lifestyle. That is more that is more like a consumer society. And they also, after the COVID-19, have made the entire world more consumer society. And we see a lot of, the dumps and dumps of disposable crockery and other things that we see all around us.
All right, I mean, let's hope some kind of solution comes as far as this is concerned, because the way things are going, Dr. Saab, the way things are going, I'm not talking of Pakistan, I'm here talking of the European Union, that the EU is on the one hand facing the effects of the war between Russia and Ukraine. On the other hand, it is facing now this huge after effect of climate change. Let's hope some positive development comes out through some kind of resolution by the European Union. Thank you very much, Dr. Munir Ahmed Saab, environmentalist, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this very important aspect of climate change that is slowly and steadily seeping into the European Union as we speak. I'll just, before we leave this segment, give some statistics. In Spain, more than 70,000 hectares have been destroyed because of fires. As far as Portugal is concerned, temperatures did drop, but the temperatures are increased. More than 1,000 firefighters are working to fight the forest fires. As far as Belgium and Germany are concerned, it is also stated that the temperatures in those countries are going to increase in the next couple of days. Britain was apparently going to go for its hottest days in the week as well. They are saying that they are going to cancel the train company services, schools might close early, and ministers are urged to tell the public to stay at home. In France, there are wildfires everywhere, especially in the southwestern region. Also, Paris is going to have an increased temperature. In Italy, smaller fires have emerged. In Switzerland, there is also the effect of the heat wave. In the Balkan region also, it is expected that the temperatures are going to soar very high later in this week, whether it be Croatia, whether it be in Sabinik, whether it be in Slovenia. I just wanted to give a little update as far as that is concerned. Let's come to our last story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns Pakistan's outlook as far as Fitch is concerned. Now, ratings agency Fitch has revised Pakistan's outlook from stable to negative. It has cited various reasons for this downgrade that includes adjustment risks, financing, political risks, and declining reserves. It has noted a significant deterioration in Pakistan's external liquidity position and financing conditions since the start of the year. It has also talked about the political changes that have occurred in the country very recently. It also talks about the slowing growth and high inflation that have contributed for it to change its rating to B minus. At the same time, the parity between dollar and rupee is also increasing. The dollar is, of course, becoming stronger. Many people are talking about different reasons why the dollar is becoming stronger vis-a-vis the rupee. They say that the demand for dollar among the importers has spiked because of the future of inflows from the IMF. Other people say that it is because of rupee's rapid decline to Fitch's downgrading. Of course, we've talked about that. Then some people say that banks could or could not be blamed because of that to bring panic in the market. Others are also saying that there was no demand for dollars in the open interbank market, and that there needed to be concrete efforts to stabilize the parity between the dollar and the rupee is concerned. Different reasonings, different people, but the fact remains that there is a downgradation as far as Pakistan's outlook is concerned, and there is an increase in the parity between the dollar and rupee. Let's hope this comes to an end and that Pakistan's economy stabilizes in the next coming days, and the same agencies like Fitch, like Moody's bring Pakistan's rating back to normal or positive. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to US and Pakistan. Stay safe, follow the SOPs, and be very careful as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Allah Hafiz.